So first question, Surya, how come tea in Himachal?
My family bought this tea estate in 1953. The British actually planted these tea estates very similar time as in Darjeeling. Bushes which we have are the Camellia sinensis of the Chinese variety, which they smuggled in from China. Around the 1850s is when they identified the Kangra region, which is where we are, as suitable for growing tea. They successfully grew it here, and actually they won awards over some teas of Darjeeling. Sadly, in 1905 there was a major earthquake. There was 7.8 on the Richter scale, and the British left overnight. The market was controlled by the British, so they kind of killed the estate of the business in this region.
Upasana, how has your relationship been with tea and with MBA and with Bombay and now with Palampur?
Well, you still see me drinking coffee here. So it's hit or miss, I guess. The convenience and connectivity for the hills has really improved. It is one of those things I was like, I need some time off to just be consistent, stay in like one space and think about what is happening around me.
I want to know what you have done and why did you do what you did?
The scenario of the tea estates in India is not very, very good.
Hi, I'm Upasana, and
Hi, I'm Surya.
so we live in Palampur. We're originally from Calcutta, but we actually live on our tea estate called Tea Estate, which is in Palampur in Himachal Pradesh.
And we moved here in 2016, and then we eventually set up a homestay called the Lodge at Bar. So since then, we've been here.
So can we get a bit of background on you guys? Before 2016, who was Surya, who was Upasana? Let's...
Yeah, absolutely.
So we both grew up in Calcutta, both went to Lamatlia. That's where we met when we were 14. We were both part of the swimming team, and I guess I wanted to play golf professionally. So my idea was to go to the US. I went to the US on a scholarship, thinking I'll come back and turn professional, and soon realized that the money was very tough. So took an easy option and joined my dad, who was in the tea business, and Upasana.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of switched around a little bit. So after school, I went to the US for my undergrad. After that, I ended up working in Bombay for about a year, a little over a year. Then I went to Hyderabad, got my MBA from ISB in Hyderabad, and then went back to work in Bombay for a little bit. Again, about a year, a little bit more than a year maybe. And then after that, ended up getting married, moved to Calcutta, which is when I think, like 3 or 4 months into moving to Calcutta, Surya decides to tell me, oh, you know what? I want to move to the tea estate now. So from Bombay, I'm moving to Calcutta. And then we're like, never mind, we're going to the middle of nowhere in Palampur. So we pack our bags and we ended up moving here. But actually, we ended up really liking life here. It's a bit more slow paced, but at the same time, it keeps us really busy with the amount of work and opportunities that we have here. So we've been here since then. We spend a lot more time in Palampur than we do in Calcutta now. And I think given the fact that we don't really need to be in the city as such, I mean, city life for us is now like a break. It's a holiday. Work is actually here. We have a good group of friends here, so we love being here now.
But the original plan was never to live here, actually. So when I moved here in 2016, my dad always said that, you got to live on the tea estate to really learn the way it functions, because it's much more complicated than how it looks. So he kept telling me that, and eventually I was like quite tired of listening to him. Like, why don't I give it a shot and move to the hills and see how it turns out? And obviously the first few months were tricky because it was really quiet and slow and lonely. But over time, we really started enjoying it and stuff like that. And now we live here over 8 months in a year. So definitely become more of a more mountain people than city people now.
Yeah, quite unexpectedly, because honestly, I don't think I can still get over how cold it gets in the winter here.
Talk to me about cold. I am in Toronto.
Oh my God, yeah. But I mean, like, that must be good.
Right now it's awesome. Right now it's really good. Right now it's good for you as well.
No, actually, the monsoon has started. I don't know if you guys are following the Indian news, but luckily where we live is not that bad. It doesn't flood that much. It doesn't
Yes, I
get
can
that
adopt.
crazy. But the weather's been terrible and it's been raining quite heavily here.
So, in fact, Surya, speaking of you becoming mountain people, Rishabh Singhania, who told me about you and who told me to get in touch with you through um, Ankush, he was saying that Surya now, whenever I met him last, Surya started looking more Gorkha. He has that very hill haircut, and he's like, he looks like one of the hill people. So it's good to hear you saying you are one of the hill people as well.
Oh yeah, I mean I'll take that. No, it's great. I mean lifestyle wise as well, it's been a big change. I was definitely a city boy. We were out a couple of times a week. Lifestyle, health. There's been a big change. So
A big factor for that is also that now we've got a lot of people moving into Palampur. So a lot of younger people have been setting up cafes or working remotely. And, post COVID and pandemic, that's really changed things. Like people are actually just moving to the mountains and spending most of their time here and working out of here. So we've got a group of friends that we can hang out with. And I think that's what made the biggest difference for us, because earlier it would be like, okay, we're here, we're working, and of course, we're hosting people, we're meeting guests from around the world, but there's no consistency. And then after, a month or month and a half, 2 months, you're kind of just dying to go back to a place that you can just hang out with people you know. And yeah, I think having friends here really changed that around for us. So we don't mind spending more and more time here.
Firstly, you guys are together since you're 14, which is crazy. Like, I can't even imagine such levels of commitment.
We drive each other crazy too. So it's it's an interesting dynamic. I think, like, I never thought that we'd end up working together, and I wasn't sure how that would work out.
that's the tough part. Working together is actually the tough part.
Yeah.
She is more educated than I am, so it gets even tougher. But it's fun.
Secondly, let's take it like transition by transition, right? So, you guys have had some major, major transitions in life. For Surya, it has been golf to tea estate, which are like different ends of the world. It has been India to US, which is different ends of the world. And for Upasana, it has been like from Bombay to Palampur, which, in my opinion, are huge different ends of the world.
Yeah, which is in itself different ends of the world for sure.
Yeah. So let's have a little bit about how it felt to have such major transitions. Yeah, like it takes a lot to deal with them.
So, I mean, see, for me, it was obviously the college part was, I was quite upset that I didn't make it or I wasn't successful in that space. If I look at it now, I was really lucky because I got to travel the world playing golf. I got a scholarship, so it was easy to get to America and met a lot of people. I mean, I have friends all over the world now because most of the teams or the golf teams we played on, there were a lot of kids from different parts of the world. So we've got friends in Europe, in Australia, in other parts. So that was great. Teaches you a lot. I was sent to the first time I was sent to Australia when I was 10 years old with another boy, just to go and spend some time there with a coach. Then at 16, I was sent again to the US to train with a different coach. Again, sent all alone. So it builds character. I think for me, it opened the world up. In India, we're quite mollycoddled, and parents look after more or less everything you need. But that was great. And then when I came back, see, eventually I want to do something where there's an opportunity to grow, and money is obviously a secondary part to it. But yes, you want to be successful, you want to grow something, you want to create something. So when I looked at the tea garden, the first year in Calcutta was quite boring because it was just a simple office job. We sit in the office, we try to sell tea, we handle the accounts, and there's not that much going on. But when I got to the estate, there was there was a lot happening. The tea industry also has transitioned quite a bit, where it's become a fight to survive. It's not an easy. It looks very, very nice because you've got all this land and it's all manicured, and you've got hundreds of people working. But it was a tricky space, and tea gardens in all over the country are having tough times. So that was a big challenge. So that's what I think was the exciting part. And how do we get the space to survive, and then create a name where we can grow it from a certain point? Because by the time Upasana and me got into it, I didn't see a future past 3 to 5 years unless we diversified into different things.
So first question, Surya, how come tea in Himachal? You usually hear about tea in Assam or tea in the south of India. You don't hear too much about tea estates in Himachal.
So, the British actually planted these tea estates very similar time as in Darjeeling. So the bushes which we have are this Camellia sinensis of the Chinese variety, which they smuggled in from China. And around the 1850s is when they identified the Kangra region, which is where we are, as suitable for growing tea. They successfully grew it here, and actually they won awards over some teas of Darjeeling. So we compare ourselves to the teas, or we're similar to what Darjeeling makes. But sadly, in 1905, there was a major earthquake. There was 7.8 on the Richter scale, and the British left overnight. So the history of the British cultivation, because they're the ones who control the trade, and even though after the earthquake it was taken over by Indian families, but the market was controlled by the British. So they kind of killed the estates of the business in this region. Obviously, some planters survived, and my family bought this tea estate in 1953. So this was just one of the tea estates they bought amongst the many they had purchased. But like, every other Indian family was a big family with a lot of brothers. So they kind of separated it. And then this came to my granddad, which is now makes me the 4th generation running the plantation.
So, Upasana, how has your relationship been with tea and with MBA and with Bombay and now with Palanpur?
Well, you still see me drinking coffee here. So it's hit or miss, I guess. No, I love living on the tea estate. I didn't expect to. I really thought that I would be completely following that corporate path and working somewhere. I mean, at one point, the idea was actually to stay back in the States and work there, switch that to Bombay. And I really did enjoy life in Bombay, but I never enjoyed that feel of that concrete jungle. So I never enjoyed that feel of the infrastructure of the city. I think Palanpur was actually surprisingly great because we didn't expect to be this busy building up something from scratch. And that was the main thing that kind of kept us going and still keeps us going, is being able to watch something that we have started really build up and keep growing as we keep going on. And I mean, like, I think now it's been 7 years.
Yeah.
And I just feel like we've barely scratched the surface. Now there's so much more we can do, not just with the homestay, but also with the tea brand, also with different ideas that we might have in terms of just growing, I don't know, like parts of the business that we had never considered before. Like, for example, now we have like a cafe that is on the tea estate. So there's a lot that we can do here. And I think that's what keeps everything really exciting.
But when we did move, Upasana did do a 10-day Vipassana course. So she was, I mean, that was a way of kind of, settling down and saying, okay, listen, what is going on? My life is just changing every week.
Yeah, I mean, it was just one of those things. I was like, I need some time off to just be consistent, stay in like one space and think about what is happening around me.
So in fact, when Surya and we spoke when we spoke on the intro call, we were having this discussion, and I was like, dude, I think you are living what, at least for me, would be like the ideal place, because I am one for the hills all the time. And Akhil's told me this a couple of times that, dude, you're a pahadi, because every second or third time like we spoke, I was like, bro, I'm going to the hills again. I'm going to the hills here. I'm going here. So there's, how was that change like? What was that experience, and what did you all do? And I'm sure it's great for a week or 10 days, but eventually the whole the slow internet and things not being as connected to you as you're used to in the city, eventually they must be catching up.
So I think, it was interesting because when we moved here first, I mean, we couldn't have done this call 5-6 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely
The
not.
internet was, Vodafone would barely get signal.
Vodafone still barely.
So we had to change our phone connections. My mom actually got us a landline because she was like, you guys have disappeared. Nobody knows where you guys are. But I think what is interesting was it was the first thing. See, we definitely got a foundation, but it was the first thing which we were trying to build ourselves or create ourselves for Upasana and for me. I mean, she's always worked for others, and then I'd never worked for anybody. So it was, there was an opportunity, and my parents were, or my dad and mom were pretty okay that, listen, we're okay with kind of whatever you guys want to do, but, just figure it out.
I think also, unfortunately, almost the convenience and connectivity for the hills has really improved. So earlier, I would say that it was truly that simple life that you're thinking of, where you barely get more than like, I don't know, 2 options of even shampoo here, and there's no delivery service that comes down. But now with Amazon, Flipkart, everything delivering, the tea estate is still a little far away from the main town of Palampur, but we even have like Zomato delivery right till around the main areas of Palampur. We don't get it right till us, but it's not bad. I mean, we have so many more options now that it doesn't feel completely disconnected anymore.
Yeah, and the delivery services in India are quite top notch. So I mean, everything Amazon delivers here. You can order anything you want online, and it reaches within 3 to 4 days.
Yeah.
So, but again, 6-7 years ago, this wasn't happening.
And I have to say, when it comes to social life, it's a big change, because I like the fact that we don't have that crazy hectic city life where we're constantly having to go out, and it's like an expectation, because if you don't, you're being rude to someone. Here, people, I get, because everyone's here doing their own thing, people understand that if you can't make it, you can't make it. Everything's a bit further away than the city, or you might not be able to drive at night, or whatever it is. So you're kind of doing whatever you want at your own pace, which is really great.
Also, I think if you're, wherever you are, if you're busy and you've got stuff going on,
Yeah.
it kind of, fits in. And luckily with the lodge, we've been able to attract some really nice people. So, every evening at around 7:30, we sit down with our guests.
Yeah.
And we have a chat. So we more than anything, we've got to learn so much about the world and about life in the last 6 years that, I mean, it's quite priceless. And some of the bonds we've created. We recently went to the UK, and we actually met up with some of our ex-guests
Yeah.
for dinner or a cup of tea or something like that. So that's
Exactly.
pretty cool.
Yeah, and the whole holiday was pretty much planned by our guests. Like, they would tell us, oh, you're going there, okay, you must visit this place or eat at this restaurant. And at this point of time, you should be at this place. So, like, literally everything was mapped out for us. So, yeah, it's been really great to meet people from all around the world, actually.
I'm actually pretty sold on the whole hill experience. So maybe our viewers can enjoy some of this. Maybe I can discuss some kind of a discount code with you guys post episode and put it in like the description below.
I would say that at this point, we don't really give out any discount codes, because we don't, like, with 6 rooms, it's nothing, that we don't have the ability to stretch ourselves beyond what we already do for our guests. But we are happy to talk to anyone who gives, say, like, your reference or uses a reference of some sort, and we can maybe like fit that into kind of something special for the guests when they come in.
Lovely. So I would like to discuss with you 1953, your family buys the estate, right? Now, we get founders on here. What has been your brainchild? What is it exactly that you have built over the past 7 years, which was not happening before that?
Just to add to that really quick, what prompted it as well? I want to know what you have done and why did you do what you did?
Okay, so the scenario of the tea estates in India is not very, very good. I mean, if you read about it, there's a tea estate in Darjeeling getting sold every day. It's very, very sad. It's not only for the owners as well, but, there's hundreds of people who are attached to a particular estate. For us, I think the main thing what we've created here is the brand. The estate was always there. The lodge was built as a personal residence. We've gotten over the years, we've been really lucky. My cousins own Glenburn, which is the most famous place for tea tourism. So she was a very big guiding factor in our journey. And we obviously took leaves from other people's books, and what we've just kind of created is a place where you can experience Kangra tea. You can learn about it. You can, even if you're not staying with us, we have a whole space which is like a vineyard, or what we call the tea room, where you can come in, you can visit the factory. We give you a very in-depth tour of the estate. We talk about the history of tea. Like you said, nobody knows there's tea in Himachal. So why it wasn't there? Why is the estate called Va? You come and see the factory. You can see all the teas being made. And then you get to taste about 20 different teas. And, we wanted to make it accessible for everybody. So a guided tour is just 200 rupees a person. And our prices for the teas are also not very exorbitant, because the first thing is the education, right? When people come, the whole move from, we want to buy direct from source. We want to know where our products are coming from, farm to table. So that's what we try to create with the brand at the tea estate and with the lodge as well. When we moved here, so what my dad actually built was a traditional Himachali mud hoe. The first time I saw it, I actually laughed at him and said, I don't think this is going to stay. Like, I think it's going to break. I don't want to live in a place like this. And now we absolutely love it because, it's something unique. It is something how the village people or the tribes up in the mountains used to live. And then we also focus a lot on the traditional Himachali meals, what they serve. Yeah, the whole local experience. So even we cook on wood fire. We obviously have a gas and a stove, but predominantly we try to cook on wood fire and the traditional ways of living and eating. We grow about 60% of what you're going to eat here. So for us as well as a family, our lifestyle and health has also improved over the years.
Backing up a bit, even the entire Vati brand was something you brought about around the same time, maybe 10 years ago, maybe.
Yeah, so I think what we realized is that this is the tourist location. There are people coming here. My family always looked at it as the old school way of working in a tea, or the way the tea gardens work is, you want to make more money, you make more tea. And I was after that as well for a bit. Then slowly realized that, listen, if we make less tea but higher quality, we can make more money or charge premium prices for it. And then we started reaching out to, world markets. So very proud about it that last year we got into Harrods. So Harrods carries the Kangra tea now. Took us almost 5 years, but, we finally got them to the stage, or we got the teas up to a quality where it was acceptable to them as well. So I think, the whole focus on how can we do this differently, and seeing other brands and, how they're creating the story. There's a lot of history with the place, with the tea estate, with the family, which was never really discussed.
I think the earlier it was all the wholesale tea.
Yeah.
The fact that even like we decided, or rather I would say Surya, because I wasn't even in the picture at that point. Surya decided that he wants to build a brand, like a Vati brand, and create it as a retail point was completely new. And, his idea was essentially the same thing, that he wants people to be able to try Kangra teas in a way that would be very acceptable to the markets versus only selling it wholesale in Calcutta. So that was a fairly big shift that happened. And now that part of the business has really taken off.
Yes, to answer Vishnu, your question about why, I think when we both reached here, we realized the dire scenario of the plantation, and we obviously looked at the finances and said, okay, we've got some limited amount of time to reinvent the wheel. There are people doing this similar things. There were people trying to do these similar things before as well, and even now. But things fell into place, and I've always said this. We've always been very lucky that we've gotten a lot of good guidance in our journey.
Let's talk a little about like the whole money aspect of things, right? So it's been 7 years you've been running this. How has it been financially?
Oh, we're definitely much more stable than we've been. See, the thing with agricultural businesses is that you can have good years and then you can have really bad years as well. It's very cyclical. So you see 2 good years, but the problem is whenever you have a good year, there's so much of infra work which needs to be done, or there's so much of investments which need to be made, that all that money kind of goes into that kind of stuff. But then when we have bad years, then we're really left with nothing. So obviously adding the retail brand, the cafe, the homestay.
That justify that risk a bit.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like Surya said, I mean, it's just so much investment that goes into building up, because we're still at a very nascent stage for all our businesses at this point. So, constantly putting the money back in to improve things. And honestly, that's the only way you can move forward. I mean, there's no way, even just as a homestay brand or as a property brand, there's no way we can continue if we don't reinvest money and make this, like beyond just plain maintenance work, make it even better every year for someone to come back to. It wouldn't work. So I mean, it's difficult to pinpoint how we're doing, but yes, I think in terms of being able to slowly grow the entire business, yeah, we're managing to do that. And you're not up new avenues.
You're not dependent on one stream, right? You've got many different streams, which obviously if you're having a bad year with something, I mean, let's take COVID, for example. The first wave, the homestay was shut for 7 or 8 months because my parents were here. They were paranoid. We didn't know what to expect. Luckily that year, tea was very good for us. So, we were okay to say that, 7, 8 months, we can keep the homestay shut and the tea estate will take care of it. The year after that, yeah. So 2 years later, tea was struggling, but, there was revenge tourism. So obviously, and then what happens is, like when people visit the factory, when they come and see what we're doing, we're quite honest about the whole process, what we do. You can come and see everything. It's not like a tour where, we show you something from far and say that's how tea is made. You actually walk in and see the machines moving and the tea being made. So they obviously have a connect. And now we've got people buying off our website or on Amazon who are regular customers. So, it's that part of the business which is slowly and organically growing. Obviously, we can't compete with the bigger brands like, Tata's or Unilever's or some of these other big funded players as well. But we know that when, you've come, you've seen the place, you've liked our teas, you kind of become a regular customer.
I think that's the correct term you use. Like, we always concentrate on our organic growth, and we always view it as our ability to be a bit more honest about what we can and what we can't do. I mean, even when it comes to tea, for example, like we're not going around saying, hey, this is slimming tea, or this is, like something like that. Like, tea is what's going to make you slim. Like, you have to watch your diet apart from just drinking cupfuls of tea. We'd love if you just drink cupfuls of tea, but that's the practice point.
Yeah, and even now today, we only ship all our teas online from the factories. A lot of people have said, why don't you move it to Calcutta? You move it to somewhere else because people will get the tea faster. But then what we can ensure is that what comes out of our factory and goes to your home 5 days later is going to be the freshest teas you're going to get. So, there's no middleman. It's coming straight from our factory and it gets delivered. And we're the ones who are handling the shipping as well. So it gets delivered to you. A lot of people might look at that as incorrect and saying your growth is not fast enough and stuff like that. But, we look at it as when you're getting a tea from us, it's going to be 100% from the factory. There's no mixing, there's no blending, there's nothing that goes into it.
Quality over everything, right?
Yeah. And, that's how you build trust as well. At the end of the day, no matter, things are moving online and everything, but there is a trust factor which people still want. I mean, humans still have to connect and there should be trust in it. So that's a story where we're trying to get out, saying that, we're the 4th generation and we're still living on the plantation and managing it.
So I think what I've gathered from you all is also you're trying to keep things as authentic as they were, and you're trying to make progress, but still sticking very strongly to your roots. And I think the great thing about this, especially what I have noticed after COVID, is that for a lot of people, they love to connect with a brand, or they love to connect with the ethos behind a brand. And the way you guys are going about it, it's very open, or it's very made for people who want to connect with you all, rather than people who just oh yeah, I just want to go and buy tea from like something online. So they'll just go online, search tea, and like click on the first link that they see.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've definitely tried to make sure, I mean, whether it's through our social media channels or whether it's from our website, any kind of information we put out there, we try to tell people honestly about what we are and what we can and cannot do.
So even all our social media handles and stuff is all handled by Upasana. And, it is just a way of, we're portraying the way we live here. And when we started, like, that's the thing, that was the difference when, I couldn't understand that Instagram would bring us bookings for the lodge, but that actually is one of our largest,
Direct.
indirect, and most of our bookings for the lodge is word of mouth. I mean, I would say 70% of our Indian guests are coming here word of mouth, which is huge for us. And obviously, you feel good about it, saying that, hey, somebody recommended it, and that's why we've come here. And we've got so many guests who come multiple times now. Some of them come to hang out with us, and you feel nice about it that somebody's coming for a holiday again just to spend time with us. I mean, we met them 3 days in our life, but they still want to come back and hang out.
Just a couple of episodes ago, we recorded with Ritika and Suhasini, and they were talking about revenge buying. And now you guys are talking about revenge tourism. Like, I feel like there's like a lot of revenge that is due on COVID that is just like popping up all over the place.
So it seems.
I mean, if you check out the airfares, and tourism is not coming down. So clearly, people are ready to spend whatever it takes, which is good. I mean, it's things are moving and changing where our generation is not saving as much for the future as parents' generation was. So,
Or at least not for the next generation.
yeah.
So for one very quick, very important question, let's just get that out of the way. How does one get to you? How do you reach the lodge at Vas?
So we have there's an airport 1 hour away from us called the Dharamshala Airport. There are direct flights every day from Delhi. There are SpiceJet, Indigo, and Alliance Air Fly. Delhi, you can fly anywhere from India into Delhi or anywhere in the world into Delhi, and then fly. If you want to drive, what we usually recommend is you can connect it with Amritsar. Amritsar is only 5 hours away by car. So, especially from Bombay, Bangalore, Calcutta, a lot of people fly into Amritsar, see the Golden Temple, and then they can drive up to us.
That's also Vande Bharat.
And then there's the Vande Bharat from Delhi to a place called Amb, which is 3 hours away from us.
So that's the new bullet train that started. That's also a pretty cool way to travel.
But the good thing is the government is actually announced that they're going to extend the airport. It will take a long time, but we're hoping they can get big planes into the area. So, it helps everybody.
So currently there's the ATRs that fly in, which is why the connectivity is only from Delhi and then one flight from Chandigarh.
Yeah, Chandigarh is only 5 hours away as well. So a lot of people fly into Chandigarh and then drive up.
And how far would you be from Dehradun?
We're far from Dehradun. By car, we're about 10 hours.
I think maybe longer.
Yeah, maybe 11, but yeah.
Most people, if they are connecting to Dehradun, they would fly through Delhi. So, Dehradun, Delhi, and then us or the other way around. I don't think I've ever met anyone who traveled by road from us.
But the good thing is we're right at the foothills. So we're at about 3,800 feet. So the good thing is, like, even though there's bad weather, but you can access us through the year. There's no landslides, there's no flooding. There's none of that danger that if you come here, you can get stuck.
I want to have a tea 101 on here. You said 20 different types of teas. I have only ever seen one. Like, I understand coffee, light roast is nice, it is juicy, and then dark roast is very harsh and a little chocolate-like. I don't know what tea is. I think there's just like this black powder. You put it in water, boil it up, and you have tea. So what is 20 different types of teas? Let's have a 101 here.
So there are two styles of manufacturing tea. One is what we call CTC, which stands for crush, tear, curl. That is your basic milk tea, which you spoke about, that you put into a pan, you boil it, you add milk and sugar, and you drink it. The other style of manufacturing, what we do in Himachal, is what we call orthodox. Orthodox is what we call leaf teas, which you drink without milk, and preferably no sugar. So, whenever you travel to Europe, you'll always get tea and milk on the side. That's usually an orthodox tea. And the best orthodox teas are made from the Chinese bush. So all the green teas as well in China are made, and that's why, people regard the Chinese green tea as the best green teas in the world, is because of the bush variety they have. So that's the bushes we have in Himachal and in Darjeeling. And that's why, the teas without milk, they're the better, well-known, like Darjeeling is known as the champagne of teas. So it is because, that is a much lighter, more flavorful. Unlike CTC, which is supposed to be much more body, more stronger, more bitter, we're much lighter and more flavorful. So what we make, to answer your question about the different varieties, is green, black, which is the black teas which you have without milk. We do a white, we do oolong, and then we do many flavors. So all of these come from the same plant, but the oxidation levels from green, white, oolong, and black are different. And that's how the teas become different. They taste different. They have different health benefits.
Awesome. I did not know that. That's
Guys,
I think, that's the biggest, if whenever anybody visits us at the factory, the most common reaction is that, oh, it takes so much to make a cup of tea, or there's so much work that goes into making a cup of tea.
no, honestly, I had no idea that green and black tea come from the same bush. I always thought they were two different bushes. So I don't think most people would know about tea. I think this is something that we drink and we enjoy, which is why, the flavors actually help a lot, because it's a great way to kind of ease into this habit of drinking tea. Not a lot of people will enjoy even with coffee, like, you grew up drinking cold coffee and then you move into like your garam Nescafe, and slowly that moves into proper, French press and all of that. So I think it's the same thing for tea. We see a lot of people picking up like a rose tea or like a mint tea, and then slowly they'll be like, oh, we want a green, we want an oolong, we want the first flush black. So then, those nuances really start coming in.
And interestingly, we were working with a performance marketing company out of Bombay, and they were quite surprised to see our teas, and especially some of the pure teas, so like the plain blacks or the oolongs, being sold in Punjab, which is predominantly a milk tea consumer. So when we got on a review call once, they were like, so how do you have these customers in Punjab? And I said, that's because they are all visiting the factory or our stores in this area, and they're tasting the teas, and then they understand what we're doing, and that's how they become. So what we've always stressed on is that if you visit us, you can taste all the different teas we make, which becomes the unique part of the experience. When you go wine tasting, you might not like wine, but because you've tasted the wine and you're like, oh, I've come to this place, why don't I buy a bottle? So that's the concept. And, we actually went to Napa Valley, and that's when we got this idea that, listen, why can't we do the same thing?
And I should also mention about the brewing. Like, many people don't understand how to brew the tea correctly, which is why they don't end up liking green or black teas.
Yeah, so that's the other thing which we talk about in the tasting process is, we tell you how you should brew teas. And it doesn't matter where you buy the teas from. There is a certain style of making that tea. So you could buy the most expensive tea in the world, and then if you make it incorrectly, it's not going to taste good, which is what commonly happens because, in India, we have the habit of boiling most of our teas. Calcutta is a very different thing because, people there, because of the British influence, a lot of people still drink non-milk teas, but rest of the country is predominantly, it is the largest consumed beverage after water. So
I feel India is yet to become the land of hobbies. So it becomes very funny because, tea can be a hobby, coffee can be a hobby, wine can be a hobby. So I like to have my coffee straight from the beans. So I like to take the beans, I have a grinder, I like to grind the beans, make them in like a pour over. Now, I had very nice single origin coffee, okay? And they're supposed to be like good, highly priced coffee. And my sister-in-law doesn't know how to make coffee from like ground beans. So she took the beans, she didn't know what to do. She put them in a mortar and a pestle, tried to make like thick chunks of coffee, put them in boiling water, and hope that I would get coffee somehow, and then she sieved it with the tea sieve that we use for tea. And it becomes very funny because when you listen to it, you're like, what were you having? You were having like a coffee stew of some sorts.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, like, honestly, I still get tea making wrong because I guess, again, like I said, I'm a coffee drinker and and honestly, I'm a crap coffee drinker. I can't even say I care about single origin, this and that. Like, I'll drink my Nescafe if I have to. It's just a matter of staying awake for me. But I think, like, so even now, after so many years, we have friends over and they are actually, like, some of our friends really do enjoy tea. They'll always say me, listen, Upasana, you don't make the tea, let Surya make it. Because, like, there have been times when I'll put too much tea leaves in, or, like, the water will be too hot and I'll keep it in too long. So there's, like, it can actually be such a, and I'm sure you understand that with coffee, like, it can be such a ritual that you enjoy. And, like, that's where the hobby thing comes in, where, like, it's almost like a part of your day that you're looking forward to, where you're going to start from scratch and build up to something that you can sit back and sip and enjoy.
Well, and even, I mean, if you look at China and Japan,
Yeah,
the tea ceremonies are really famous. Even in India, tea is a very social, if anybody comes to visit you, you'll never say, do you want a coffee? Is a very new thing. Otherwise, it's always like, can I get you a cup of tea? Yeah. Chai is a very everyday, many times a day kind of thing. You walk down the road and you'll have people discussing politics or daily events over a cup of tea in a cooler.
I'm saying they'll be at the roadside, even for like when you're at work and all, you often go down for a cup of tea to your like local tea fellow. And
exactly.
Yeah, and people here are anyway, like, they have this habit of, like, if you're walking on the road and you meet someone new, they literally, like, most of the time they'll be like, "Aur kahan se ho? Aao ghar, chai pilate hain, pakoda khate hain." Like, it's a very common thing to like people over for chai and
But
pakoda.
it's not a social thing, right? So that's where the hobby and the stuff come in, that it is a part of the daily life.
Yeah.
coming back to Upasana, like what was your introduction like to the lodge and to getting into tea? What was that like? How did you get in it, and how did you sort of, I mean, what led to the idea of the homestay?
So honestly, for the homestay, it was kind of like a pretty organic move, because when we came in, the home was already built, right? I mean, like, we were supposed to have this as our own personal family home, and the structure was complete. The interiors wasn't done. But knowing Dad, he would have taken another 10 years to perfect it anyway. So I think that's when we stepped in. We were like, you know what, like, let's just give this a shot. So we had people who were able to advise us correctly. And they're like, you know what, we've got this beautiful place. It's just the four of you. You have way too much space for the four of you, and it's going to be very hard to maintain it. So consider running it as a homestay and see how it goes. So the first year, and that's what we decided to do. We came in. I obviously still don't have any idea about tea, so I was just like, you know what, let me try this homestay aspect of it. And we completed the interiors, we set it up, and all we did was put it on Instagram. And I think at that point we were on booking.com, and we said, let's just go with it and see how it does. And the first summer we were flooded with guests. I mean, to the point where we actually had to take 2 days and just turn, just put everything off, stop taking any bookings for those 2 days, and just shut down so that we could get a breather. I mean, the team was completely overworked because we weren't expecting this kind of massive, I guess, like, interest in coming to stay here. I mean, Surya always said, like, why will people come?
Yeah, because, we're in the middle of nowhere. Even for Palampur,
yeah, we're in
town, we're in the outskirts. But obviously now we realize why people want to come here, and, what is their connection with the space and the greenery and stuff like that. But when you start, you're always looking at the negatives first, and, trying to figure out, okay, why will this work?
You're always looking at the negatives first. Surya is definitely the more conservative.
So 2016 is when we moved, and then we had some friends and family visit, and 2017 is when we officially opened.
I think overall,
Yes,
correct. So 2017 is when we officially opened to guests. And that's the first summer that we were more or less inundated with guests. And I mean, since then, there's kind of been no looking back. It was easy to build up from there because right from the start, it was, for us, we didn't have a hospitality background. So the only thing we could do was, hey, if we had friends and family over at our house, how would we treat them? How would we ensure that they had a great stay? And that coupled with our experiences of traveling around the world, that's what kind of shaped this entire place up. So, for example, we'd gone to this place where we stayed in a B&B in New Zealand during our honeymoon, and we kind of picked up a couple of ideas from there. And then, from our travels or our stay when we were in college in the States, we picked up ideas from there, and we kind of just stitched everything together. And it worked out really well because I think even now what people love the most is they feel like they're able to enjoy home while being in a place that is not their regular home. We never try to say that we're going to give you like masaledar restaurant style food. Like, yes, food is very flavorful. Food will be really good. I know you go home talking about it, but it's going to still be a home style cooking. It's not,
and it's an experience. I mean, it's food which is not commonly served in restaurants and other parts.
And same thing with like even hospitality in general. Like, we're not going to have 5 suited booted people around you saying, hey, so ma'am, what can I get you? Or would you like some lemon iced tea? No, it's like pretty like, हाँ ma'am, आपको क्या चाहिए? If you need anything, हम लोग इधर में ही है, बोल दो. Call out to us. So the idea is always to make them feel as relaxed as possible. And it's amazing how much people appreciate that. Whether it's, international guests or whether it's people from the next state over, they just like being able to take in the surroundings and enjoy nature while still feeling like they're in a boutique property versus like a chain hotel.
I mean, what surprisingly we've succeeded on is, in North India, nobody believed that we could have a dinner time and stick by it. But we have a dinner time at 9:30 is the last time we serve dinner. And even my dad doesn't agree with it, but, it's worked. And it's the whole community thing. That if you want to have a drink, you can have a drink at 4 p.m. But dinner is going to be served at 9:30.
We literally tell our guests that sometimes they'd be like, but we wouldn't have even started drinking. We're like, no, we'll set up the bar for you at 4. You start drinking then. It's your holiday.
But the idea is that, everybody's there. You've got 6 different couples or 6 different families who are staying there. And you obviously have people, some people might enjoy the noise. Some people have come to us for the peace and quiet.
But a lot of people actually go home becoming friends. I mean, it's actually amazing how many times we've had groups of different people, different couples, and they'll end up, becoming friends to the point where we had like I think there were about 5 different couples who had stayed, and all, like, no one knew each other. They recently video called me from Bombay because they'd all met up for a dinner together. So, it's really nice to see that people form these connections while they're staying with us.
Must be really fulfilling being able to connect these people. And, just 6 is a very intimate group, I feel like. Just 6 couples is a very small, very intimate group. So everyone must be able to connect pretty well.
But that's what we don't do more than 13 people at one time. So that is what we say is our capacity. And from the family, there's either my mom and dad or Upasana and me. Somebody's always going to be there to host unless, there's a family celebration or anything like that where we're not here.
Even if we get a call for, say, hey, we are a family of 18 and hum log adjust kar lenge, don't worry. But we wouldn't take a booking like that because we know our service standards will fall. We won't be able to present the property to the best of our ability. We won't be able to host the way we should. So we're pretty careful about adhering to these policies, and that might appear a bit strict at times. But the entire idea is that it's easier for us to be careful before the guest comes on property, so that once they're on property, they always have the best time they can.
No, I mean, and getting back to this whole dinner time conversation, I mean, I face this with my family almost every day where there's many a times we were eating dinner at 7:30 and there's times we're eating dinner at 9:30 and we're like, hello, can we get like a stable dinner time? And none of us are able to adhere to it. And this is being from Calcutta, which is supposed to be very prim and proper and on time. I'm not even starting to talk about the Delhi side of my family where things can just go haywire and then some. But yeah, so I can imagine how that might be something that really has to be looked into.
Yeah, but we managed to get away with it. So
I kind of want to talk about the investment side. So you guys said that the money that comes in, we've been reinvesting in. What does that look like? What exactly is it that you're investing in? And where does that take you in the future?
Yeah, so see, on the tea end, we've obviously created a huge space for the tea tasting and the experience part of it, where you can come in. We're working on creating a museum with the family history, the history of tea, and all of that. Um, in the future, obviously, this becomes a place where people can come and visit, see it, and then get educated more about. So you're creating this whole brand and this whole space where you can experience tea. Um, yeah, and then the cafe part also was the thing that we got a lot of requests from people coming from all over the place saying, "Listen, we've come to a tea estate, we'd like a cup of tea," but obviously I can't get my staff to quit what they're doing and say, "Listen, can you make them a cup of tea?" So we decided we had some space and let's make a cafe. We got a partner on board and we said, okay, this is what we want. We serve only tea and food. So that became popular. It's become it overlooks the tea garden, so it's a nice space to come and sit out. So that was on the tea front. For the lodge,
I mean, it's small things. I think that just kind of keep going every year. Like it could be trying to build. So, like for example, we have like a central campfire area where everyone kind of sits around in the evenings when the weather's good. We decide to build kind of like a ring around it, so it's like it's trellises, so that we could have creepers all through. So it's like a nice space that people can sit and enjoy. It might be building the wood-fired pizza oven. It might be now we're planning to build a pergola or like an area where people can kind of enjoy sitting outside in the garden, but still have a covered
same thing with.
space over
So
there.
we also made a yoga space. We had somebody who reached out saying, "Listen, we'd like to do a yoga retreat. You have a space," and then we realized, okay, we've got so much greenery, so let's build a yoga space. And then from there, so we've got another villa now which we run under our brand, which is in a location about half an hour from us. And that also came about because we had a guest who came and stayed with us and said, "Listen, I like what you do. I'm building this holiday home, but I want you to run it for me." So we came in as the managing
Operating.
or operating partner there. Obviously, with the upkeep of the place and the amount of effort and the detailing which has gone into the main flagship property, people do realize it and appreciate it as well. There's something,
Sustainability measures.
yeah. And then from the organic farming, we started with a couple of vegetables and a little bit of this. One farmer, one gardener, to now having a team of 3 people who do it full time. We've got about 5 acres under plantation, 2 greenhouses. So, it's I think all the investments are to enhance the experience, and then that eventually translates into better returns. You can't creating spaces which are unique. So we do a picnic within the tea estate. We take you for a long walk. We'll set up this whole picnic, or we'll take you to a water stream and we'll set up a picnic there. So stuff like that. It's not only capital intensive, but it's a lot of building on the experiences and the
Building up the staff,
yeah.
building up the touch and feel points, the entire guest journey. Basically, we keep trying to improve it right from start to end. What can we do to make it feel more special or more convenient right from when they're booking to when they're finally leaving and saying goodbye? What can we do to make it more memorable?
So, in terms of staff and your team, so from the team that you started with in 2017, where you had to take a break, to now, how has the team grown? How many people were there and how many people are there now?
So we started with 4, 3, 7, and to 9. Now we've gotten to 13, and then we've got 3 people who are full-time farming or handling the gardens and the agricultural part of it, and then we've got one more who handles the guest relations here. So obviously, I would say it's doubled. For the new property, we've got 5 there, plus one guest relations person for 4 rooms. So we've got 13 people for 6 rooms, and there we've got 5 people for 4 rooms. So yeah, it's definitely growing, and we always kind of think about, how did we manage earlier with such less people?
I was just going to say that, we always try to make sure that whoever we hire, we try to do as much as we can locally. So like the entire team, apart from the guest relations people, they're actually all local. And it's been good to be able to kind of watch them grow as well. So, we had one of the ladies who joined us. I mean, she didn't have any experience, for example, with like baking or, any kind of like desserts or anything like that. Now she's essentially a resident baker. She does everything from our bread to our cakes, cookies, caramel custard. All of these things are things that she's kind of learned over time. So
Yeah, jams, chutneys, pickles, everything. So, it's nice to hear. I mean, we get a lot of British guests who come and tell us, oh, the cookies it's the best shortbread we've had.
Yeah.
And, it's a very simple cookie, but it's nice to hear that they're comparing it to some of the best cookies they've had ever. So,
and I know like now, she's bought a scooter for her daughter. She's got an oven for her house. So like it's good to be able to watch the team grow as well with us. And that's always been the idea that we hire locally and then uplift them at the same time.
I was saying it's always easier to scale up, and then when you reach that higher number, it's always like, oh shit, how did I manage with this many people? I just remember hearing this again and again, and I've seen it as well sometimes at work and stuff like that. That whenever you hire an extra person to do something, and like that, you can't imagine that you functioned without that person. How is the dynamic been between the two of you?
Yeah, I mean, because we've grown up together, we know each other for over 20 years now. It got to a point where all we did was talk about work, and we've actually had to sit down and kind of say, okay, listen, we need to take some time off. We can't just keep discussing it, and obviously everybody today looks at things differently, right? I mean, our views don't have to always match. So there have been some points where we end up fighting or arguing, but see, at the end of the day, we know that it's for the betterment of the organization, of the company, of the family as well. It is interesting. It can get tricky with everybody being involved.
Yeah, and I think we just have to be very careful now. But like, I mean, I'm pretty bad at this sometimes, but like Surya's a lot better with saying, hey, okay, you know what? Now let's just shut work. Like we're not talking work anymore. I think like what happens though is like you think of that one thing and you're like, okay, yes, but just one thing. I just thought of one thing. I'm just going to say this last thing. And then that happens another 5 times. So it never really ends. But we try to make it a point too. And we've been trying to make sure that we get enough time to move away from just operations and think a bit more strategy as well. That was the other thing that I think was missing, because for so many years we were doing just ground up work and we were so involved at every point of every business that we weren't being able to switch roles and really take time off to think strategically. And now that we've kind of dipped our hands into so many different things, it was becoming more and more important to do that. So far, if we were just doing the tea estate on one side and the homestay on one, it was still fine. But now with like the tea estate plus like the tea experience plus the cafe and then the other villa, I mean, if we don't take a step back and we kind of rejig and rethink, it kind of starts feeling really overwhelming and it doesn't go in the right direction.
So, I mean, yeah, we've finally started. We're in the phase where we're team building. We're trying to hire more people and, assign roles and responsibilities to different people. First, it was just Upasana and me trying to do everything.
Yeah, we're not good delegators. We're trying to be.
I think that happens, right? Because it's your baby and you don't want to give it to someone else to so that handing over responsibility takes some time.
Yeah, I think that was the big one because we're still nervous that, if we give it away, what happens? Will it pay out well or not well? And stuff like that. For a new brand, I think it's a problem which everybody faces. So,
could you two do it alone without each other? And the second question I have is, if someone were to do it alone and leaving the family legacy behind, if someone were to do it alone, how much would it cost?
So, I mean, see, I don't think it's impossible to do it alone. Like, you can definitely do that. You just have to be careful from the start to build the team accordingly. Because we had the both of us working on it, we kind of depended on each other to pick up the slack when, one of us couldn't. And that's fine because, we worked well as a team and we were able to have each other's back in that. But
Also, I mean,
it definitely
for
was
that,
difficult.
yeah, it's bootstrapped, right? At the end of the day, because we've got two hands instead of one.
Yeah.
So the costs were nothing else because, it's us putting in all our
Yeah.
effort and stuff like that. So that definitely helps because we can assign roles, we can cover up for each other. I don't think it would have been possible without, I think, as a team, not
This level of growth.
yeah, and the way we were, the pace at which we've grown, I don't think it would have been possible if we weren't a team, and for that matter, even my mom and dad. But yeah, you can do it alone. It'll take you longer, or you're spending more money hiring people and doing it that way. But I mean, for us, it worked really well because we were both doing it together. Though Pasta still wants to, or she threatens me she's going to quit because I can't match the salary she was getting 7 years ago in her corporate job. So
Every time I'm unhappy with something, like, yeah, I'm quitting. I'm serious. I'm starting to upload things on LinkedIn. Please, this is it.
I think that's the advantage of working together. I think that's one big advantage of having like two people at it. That there's one person always to pick up the slack and to motivate you again. I think in whatever 6-7 months, Akhil and I have at least experienced it. There was a couple of times that I was like, dude, I don't see this going anywhere, or what is our end goal? And he's like, bro, keep at it. We've just started.
Right. Yeah. No, definitely.
I think it's important. I mean, for whatever you do, if there's some, and you also get a fresh pair of eyes to look at things. Yeah. Because I mean, even with you guys, right? You both probably look at this whole experience of the podcast as from different angles. So for us as well, even if it's a basic thing like, what should we make the guests or what should we suggest the guests to do today? It is, she might have a different view on it, I might have a different view on it. So that way it just helps where there's pair of eyes and you look at it from a different angle.
I'm sorry, what was the second part to your question?
How much would it cost for me to start exactly what you're doing right now?
Say that.
Yeah, see, I mean, if you're going to go and build out a new space
Yeah.
and then start a homestay or purchase a tea. So tea, I would always recommend everybody not to get into. Don't start a tea business. If you want to start a tea business, start a brand, buy from people like us who are the farmers. For the homestay part, see, we've spoken to a lot of people. We've met a lot of people who want to start their own thing. It has become quite a trend now. The thing is, what we've seen is you've got to have something unique. So going out and saying I'm going to lease something and start a homestay is very tough because you won't get something which is unique or different, right? You don't want a homestay in the hills which looks like a building in Bombay.
And even without, I mean, like if you think about it with like the villa, it's not easy to kind of start off with knowing that you have a certain amount of rent or like a certain amount of lease that you're paying or even like a revenue share model that you have to do, because automatically that takes away from being able to invest into your property. And then again, you're thinking, hey, this is not my property. Do I want to put in this kind of money? So, there's certain things that worked very well with Dad having built the space up for us. And I mean, honestly, it was at that point just an opportunity cost. I mean, do we want to sit with a large house and not have anything to do with it? Or do we commercialize it in some way and make it run better? So it was a pretty easy decision. And I don't know, like at this point, if we had to do it all over again, maybe it would have done corporate.
Yeah, the cost of building a hotel space or something like that is quite large.
Yeah.
And to get returns on it is a very slow process. If anybody tells you can make a 6-bedroom boutique property and get returns in it in 5 years is probably not telling you the truth. So,
and also I think the way tourism, tourism has changed over the years. So when we started, boutique properties was a pretty novel concept, and it was, while it might have been a bit more challenging to market this to the domestic crowd, at least, like say people traveling within India, it was also at the same time easier to stand out in that space. now with the number of boutique properties coming up, now with people, now with the larger chains having their smaller properties. So, for example, with Taj, the Ama Stays, or with ITC, the Story, it automatically makes it more difficult to stand out in this fairly crowded.
Yeah, so to create a brand, I think obviously if you're a first mover in a location helps.
Yeah.
But if you're going to come into a crowded space where there are already 4 well-known boutique properties,
Yeah.
it is very, very tough.
Right, guys. So I think we're just gonna wrap up. We have this tradition where we ask you a question that was asked by our last founder who we had on here, and then we would like you all to give us a question for our next guest. So the question for you is, if you were not doing what you are doing, what would you be doing?
I'd probably be working in venture cap somewhere. I really like the world of startups, and I think that would have been a very interesting path to go down. I mean, it's still the path that I would constantly consider every time like we hit a roadblock. I'm like, maybe I should have just stuck with venture cap, or continued working in that. So yeah, possibly something.
I think I would have definitely done something with sports. That was still is my passion. I always tell everybody that once I retire, I would like to do something sports related. So eventually get to that. Maybe start a company and help raise funds for needy sports people, or work somewhere in sports, golf maybe, or any other thing. But yeah, something to do with sports for sure.